So as far as the functional foods is concerned, the name may be new, but it's not that novel entity right now. You see, 2000 years back, it's said that Hippocrates is said to be the father of medicine. He would say that thou medicine be your food and your food may be thy medicine. So your food is basically in such a manner, in such a fashion, has to be given to the consumers. So then it becomes medicine itself. It doesn't involve, doesn't attract any kind of the disorder into the human beings, into the consumers. Our Prophet Muhammad has said, our tummy, our belly is the Ummul Amraz, he said. He used the word Ummul Amraz, the mother of all ills. So if you control your diet, you can control your health issues. Then previously it was basically the nutritive value of the food that was very important for the consumers. It wasn't that the functionality and functional characteristics of the food. The people were not involved in that. They could come otherwise also, but the people were basically involved in the nutrition and the energy aspect of the food. At the most, the people would say that the balanced food has to be provided to the consumers. That was main, you see, the concern. Now, nowadays, you see the contemporary concerns are very different. Myriad competitive concerns are there with respect to the consumption of the food items. And this is basically the nutrients. They should be adequately available in the food, and they should have a balanced proportion there in the food. Recently, if you have heard of the Food Security Act or National Food Safety Act and Security Act, in that also it's not only the food that has to be made available to the consumers. It's basically the nutrition basket. All the items that are required there in the nutrients in the food of the consumer that are required to be provided to the consumer as such, so that there is no disorder there is no imbalance in the diets, in the nutrients, in the consumption patterns, and as such the health of the consumer is protected by way of securing their nutritional characteristics. And then it should be minimally processed, so that its nutritive value is not affected to the maximum levels. So the minimum possibility of processing the food so that its nutritive value is conserved, and simultaneously it has no ill effects with relation to the processing characteristics wherein certain hazardous substances are emanated. I will give the example. The person there is dealing in milk. UHT milk are available, you see, in various packaging materials. It's the most commonly available is the brick pack or the tetra pack. So you see, you keep it for several months altogether at ambient conditions of temperature. So there are interactions between various ingredients of that particular milk: protein, fat interaction, protein mineral interaction, protein vitamin interaction, and then heat, the temperature, the humidity. So these are myriad interactions within the ingredients of the food that takes place, and it results in certain hazardous substances to be produced. For instance, if you are heating the milk at a temperature of 131 degrees Celsius for a fraction of a second even, there is production of hydroxymethylfurfuryls. Then these hydroxymethylfurfuryls are definitely hazardous to the health of the consumers. And then there are certain other instances where the interactions between the sugars and the proteins take place, and then there is production of maranoidins, we call them, browning substances or Maillard reaction products, and that results in the formation of certain substances which are carcinogenic in nature. So these things have to be kept in mind while processing the foods. So minimally processed foods with relation to the conservation of the nutrients as such, and the protection of the emanation of the hazardous substances so as to protect the health of the consumer. Then shelf life, everybody is now, both parents, working families are there, so everybody wants to have a product which has a higher shelf life, even at ambient conditions. I gave the example of UHT milk right now. So even refrigerated milks should have sufficiently long shelf life in order to have their convenience in hand. Then safety from chemical substances. There are several chemical contaminants which are hazardous to the substance, which are hazardous to the health of the consumers, that need to be protected. Then biological contaminants. If you are exposing the material, the food material at certain temperatures, while there is emanation of certain substances which are biological in nature and hazardous to the consumers, that need to be protected. These are some of the current concerns of the consumers and should contribute overall to the overall health of the consumer, as we are discussing today, the functional characteristics of the food. Now, recently rampant right these days. So it is very common diseases, lifestyle diseases are there, which are directly related to the consumption of the food. Association of the food with the development of the diseases, particularly the metabolic disorders, are a result of the food that we are taking either advertently or inadvertently. Now, studies have of late shown that if the food is having certain functional characteristics, if the diet patterns are adopted in such a manner and the food selected is such that it has certain characteristics which are imparting the health characteristics to the consumers, that have been identified of late. And recently it has been identified as the functional food. So functional food is just the routine food with the characteristics of imparting certain health characteristics, health benefits to the consumers. And in addition to providing certain energy characteristics, energy is providing the nutrients, it's providing simultaneously the regular consumption of it provides certain health benefits to the consumers. Now these foods are designed either to provide, you see, protection from the disease, or it prevents itself by consumption from the, or either if you are having a existing condition, it may help in curing that condition, or if you are having, if you intend to prevent such diseases, you can prevent by consumption of such diseases. Now it was basically Japan which first enacted the legislations regarding the functional foods. There the reference is given to the FOSHU, we call it FSHOU. It's basically the foods of specific health is concerned. In Japan it's referred to as. I have given the details in our, you see the lecture note that is there available in the compendium. Now food is made functional by available, it's either a component, functional component. There are several, I will give the details of the components in the milk which are functional characteristics. So it can be either removed and added to some certain food to make it functional, or the functional component ingredient itself in the food can be made available to the consumers by giving the food product which is having the functional characteristics, or certain modification can take place via genetic engineering also, thereby certain functional characteristics will be imparted to the food. Now, vitamins, fiber, omega-3 fatty acids, minerals, bacterial cultures, flavonoids, isoflavonoids, these are certain components which are added to the food. It may be milk-based food or non-milk-based food, wherein the functional characteristics can be usually imparted. Now, regular consumption of such foods in such a pattern that gives the health benefits to the consumers will refer to as the consumption of the functional food. That is the gamut, that is the whole gamut of the story of the functional foods that is related to the health of the consumers. So it's said that it helps in prevention of certain kinds of diseases. The list is long that you will come to know later. Now this is basically functional foods. You see the prebiotics, we have probiotics, then we have symbiotics, antioxidants, salt-reduced foods, sugar-reduced foods, fat-reduced foods, anthocyanins, phytosterols, isoflavones. These are some certain functional components or ingredients from different sources that can be included in the food, and then processing should be carried out in such a manner so that these functional characteristics are retained there in the food, and then upon consumption, these functional characteristics, health benefits are carried over to the consumers. Now this is basically, we have three basic the criteria of dividing the dairy foods. We have the basic products, milk products like milk, yogurt, ice cream, etc. It may be traditional or the non-traditional foods. Then we have value-added products wherein you tailor out, you make the product suitable to the consumers. For instance, there are certain group of people which are lactose intolerant. They cannot tolerate lactose. Upon assimilation of the milk, they will have development of certain conditions we call lactose intolerance. There's diarrhea, abdominal cramps, etc. To cater to the needs of such people, we have lactose hydrolyzed milk to have the milk given to such customers. Then we have certain hypoallergenic group of foods. There are certain infants which develop allergy to the milk nutrients as such, particularly the proteins. So we have certain products which are developed to meet the requirements of such people which are allergic to the particular group or particular component of the milk. Now there is a very thin line between the functional characteristic or functional foods and these value-added foods. But depending upon the opinion, people may group it as value-added food or functional food as the case may be. Then functional dairy products, as you know, they can be enriched with certain amount of, I told you at least 10 or 12 components I have given in the previous slide. So it is there, it can be incorporated in the diet, and then it can be referred to as, regarded as the functional food. This is an overall view of the dairy products that we can have. This is beverage and non-beverage foods. Then depending upon the component that we add, we can give the name probiotic, prebiotics, symbiotic, or we may add vitamins and minerals. Then whey-based beverages, we have, the list is given over there. We have fermented and non-fermented beverages where we can add the components like arginine, alginate, bioactive peptides, niacin, probiotics. These all components, upon addition into the particular group of the food, it will impart the health benefits to the consumers. These are the conditions that will be required for a particular food to qualify for being called as the functional food. So it should be consumed as a part of the routine diet. It's not that a nutraceutical capsule, for instance, you have certain bioactive peptide from milk, you isolate it and make it into a nutraceutical. That is different. The functional food has to be taken regularly as a regular part of your diet on daily basis, so that it imparts the functional characteristic. Then it should regulate particular body function. It should be consumed, say for instance, improve biological functions of the body, physiological function of the body, prevention of a disease or recovery from an existing condition. Then control of mental and physical conditions. These are some of the criteria on the basis of which you can declare a food functional. These are some of the reasons, rationale, why should we have these functional foods. Now, there is change in understanding. I told you the current concern of the consumer is very different compared to previous days consumers. So we need to have understanding of the role of the foods in there is very large awareness among the consumers about the importance of the food as functional, so that it imparts health benefits to the consumers. So consumers' interest in health foods, their well-being, increasing longer. Everybody wants to live longer, isn't it? Everybody wants to have a very healthy life. So therefore, the functional foods are becoming a part of our diet. Prevention, initiation, or promotion and development of certain diseases, like we have very rampant diseases these days, cardiovascular diseases, cancers, metabolic disorders, osteoporosis, very common, you might have heard of. Now, what are the significant functions? If you see the milk, almost every milk component has its functional characteristic. Now, if you see milk components are a single component will have multifunctional characteristics. If you have the milk bioactive peptide single, it will have 1 or 2 or 3, even 4 characteristics to remove the disease or existing disease or prevent such disease from occurring. Now, these are some of the vitamins that we can incorporate into the milk, or it is present initially over there inherently, that can have a positive impact on the health of the consumer. These are dairy foods possess natural cluster of nutrients to protect health and enhance the immune system. So it is inherently available there in the milk itself, so as to have the functional characteristics imparted to the consumer. Now, if you take the protein as for an example, you see 4 major indices have, for instance, biological value, we have net protein utilization, protein efficiency ratio. It has been seen that they are par excellence in case of the milk proteins. Upon testing by WHO profiling, it has been seen that these 4 characteristics are very much, of high standard there in the milk proteins, so that it has health benefits to the consumers. Now, caseins and whey proteins together, these are 2 groups of the proteins present there in the milk. They are complementary to each other. One is rich in the sulfur-containing amino acids, other is deficient. So together it makes a very good protein for the vegetarian society particularly, which are deficient in such kind of proteins. Now, lactose, the multiple functions. As I told you, a single component will have multifunctional characteristics. This is one of the examples. It chelates calcium and thus lower precipitation of the during transport. So this is much more available, biologically available to the consumers. So lactose will help utilization of the calcium along with vitamin D simultaneously. It assists in the assimilation of magnesium. Magnesium is very important for the structural integrity of the blood vessels. Such a case, for instance, stroke conditions are there. If you do not have a very good integrity there in the blood vessels, strokes will be very common. So this magnesium helps in maintaining the structural integrity of the blood vessels, and it helps in maintaining magnesium levels even when the magnesium levels are very much lower there in the body available. Now it aids in establishment of acidic conditions there in the gut, and therefore the putrefaction of the proteins will not take place, decomposition of the proteins will not take place, and the probiotic and the microbiota of the gut will be maintained to the healthy levels. Now lactose is slowly metabolized. Now if you take, for instance, you have taken I have just stopped taking tea over there because there was a very high amount of sugar present there. Immediately upon taking this sugar, this is readily available to the body, and there will be surge in the glucose levels, which are not desirable as far as the health is concerned. This lactose is a disaccharide, as you know, glucose and galactose. It does not allow the glucose levels to just surge immediately after consumption. That's an advantage. Again, this is an important supplement in relation to the absorption of the calcium along with vitamin D. So lactose, vitamin D and calcium, these are three factors for the bioavailability of the calcium there in the body. Very important, particularly for the women folk. Osteoporosis after 40 years in the women is very common. If you see the data, very recently it was published from GMC Srinagar, osteoporosis and vitamin D deficiencies are so rampant, and you will be astonished to see that such conditions upon even own weight cannot bear. After 50, the women cannot bear her own weight, and she will suffer the fractures. It is simply because of these osteoporotic conditions. We do not take care of our the diet regularly. If we take these functional foods or milk as such, it is said that taking about simply 60 grams of vitaminized skim milk powder will prevent osteoporosis to the 75% extent. So therefore, these are very important things, very small things, but very important things for overall nutrition of our households as well as for our customers. Now there are certain oligosaccharides, small sugars available there in the milk. Oligosaccharides. These are very much in large quantities in human milk compared to the cow milk. So these oligosaccharides help in the maintenance of the bifidobacterium. Bacterium is one of the probiotic bacteria. They're in the infant's gut. So this infant gut nutrition is very important as far as this oligosaccharide is concerned. So the flourishing of the bifidobacterium bacterium in the intestines of the infants is facilitated by these oligosaccharides. Therefore, there is growth promotion in the infants to a remarkable extent. Fat again is not that culprit. You see, it provides very good essential fatty acids and fat soluble vitamins. A, D, E, and K, very important for the health overall. So your eye health is related directly to the A content. D content, your teeth and bone health, and then E, you know how much antioxidant properties it has. So there are a number of the advantages that these fat soluble vitamins provide. So therefore, fat, if you don't take fat, you are simply providing not the ADEK to your body, and hence you will suffer the deficiency of such vitamins, and the diseases will erupt. And then we have essential fatty acids. Essential fatty acids are very important for our body growth. So they will help in the production of the rigidity of the mitochondria. Even the cell membrane also, you might see that cell membrane rigidity also depends upon the essential fatty acids. Healthy skin and normal growth, very important because of this particular essential fatty acids, and then precursor to several important prostaglandins. So if you do not take fat in due proportions, these conditions are going to result in the production of the disease. Cholesterol, again, we simply have a very wrong notion about the cholesterol. This is very important for our normal health. This cholesterol is a precursor to several hormones, and it helps the regulation of several body functions. And now the proportion has to be decided. LDL, VDL, you know about that, HDL and LDL, and that proportion has to be significantly seen. It is said that right now the recommendation is that if you are taking the saturated fats, it has to be reduced to certain amounts. Polyunsaturated fatty acids have been increased, has to be increased there in the diet. So it should be saturated fats in your diet should be to the level of around 10%, and rest should be unsaturated fatty acids and proteins. So there are several other concepts right now. If somebody is from nutrition here, the ketogenic diets, etc., right now are very common, where the carbohydrates are reduced drastically to around 20-30%, fats are increased to around 60-70%, and proteins to 20%. So these are certain kinds of notions depending upon the nutritional status of a person and the aim of the health he wants to have. These are some of the significant functions of these functional components of the milk and milk as such. You can read out, I need not to read out for you, right? Now these are the components which are having bioactive, you see the characteristics. These are milk components responsible for the protection of some tumors. So you can have your body protected from tumors upon having these products into your diet, incorporated into your diet. Now these are again the GI diet. If you want to have your gastrointestinal health maintained, prebiotics, probiotics and symbiotics should be a very important vital component of your diet, right? Ordinarily the dahi you are taking at home, that is a very good, you see, the health giving substance, health giving food, very salubrious. It will provide all the conditions of the functionality of the food. Now cardiovascular functions, these are some of the functions that is being provided by these ingredients that are present there in the milk and milk products. Functional dairy products which are important as far as the cardiovascular health is concerned. Now hypertension is, there are certain, if you are taking the fermented dairy products, it is said there is release of one peptide which has anti-hypertensive effect, beta-casomorphin 7 and 9 component. That depends upon the A1 milk or A2 milk you are taking. Now if you are taking A1 milk, it will be beta-casomorphin 7. If you are taking A2 milk, it will be beta-casomorphin 9 component. So it has ACE inhibiting characteristics. You know, these days hypertension is very common after 40 years of age. So therefore, the ACE inhibitors are available as drugs as also. If you are taking food as ACE inhibitor without having any deleterious effect, your hypertension will be controlled. So it converts, it does not allow the conversion of angiotensin 1 into angiotensin 2, therefore there is no vasoconstriction, vasodilation takes place and blood pressure is maintained. Now these are some of the items present there in the food that can have anti-hypertensive effect. This is antithropic actually, very important to prevent the stroke conditions. Very common these days, you will find particularly in winter months, the hospitals are burdened with such conditions, such cases, where you have the stroke conditions. These components are very important to be incorporated into your diet so as to have these conditions prevented from occurring. Anti-inflammatory effect because of these peptides, several kinds of peptides. I give the table also there, the peptides which are responsible for colostrum and then whey protein concentrates. Now cholesterol also you can, there are several entrepreneurs particularly may have your attention please. There are several, you see wheat germ, wheat bran, peanuts, it has been made, several commercial products have come into being in Mexico, South Africa, where the cholesterol has been said to be reduced with the consumption of these particular foods, functional foods, to a remarkable extent. Then this Banicol is one of the trade names, and then we have again plant squirrel, malastone. See, this is in South Africa and Argentina. This product is available there. So if you are taking soya milk, this soya fortified milk or soya incorporated milk, so that would help the reduction in the cholesterol to around 25%. These are some of omega-3 fatty acids, either from riverine origin or from the marine origins. If you are incorporating these products, omega-3 fatty acids, into milk products by replacing the saturated fats with such kinds of polyunsaturated fatty acids, you will have certain very good characteristics imparted as far as the health is concerned. Now, reduction in the cholesterol level, these are the components which are responsible. Now osteoporosis, I was just telling you about osteoporosis. So osteoporosis you can prevent very easily by regular consumption of milk and milk products, particularly with these components. These are some of the products wherein the true milk from the milk as such, or natural milk, and inorganic calcium also has been added to the products, wherein the fortification takes place, and regular consumption of such foods will help prevention of osteoporosis. And these are some immunomodulatory products. So during the last 2 years we have seen COVID conditions, and then there were several products in the market which are marketed in the name of immunomodulators. This milk is a natural immunomodulator, where the components are responsible for giving the immunity to the consumers, wherein they can withstand the pressures of the infection. Now there are certain in elders particularly, in elderly patients, in elderly subjects, you will find there are problems of insomnia. They cannot sleep properly. Now the products have been identified wherein the cow milk has been said to have, the melatonin is one of the hormones produced during the night hours. When it is, you see the dark conditions out there, the stimulus goes to the brain and then it, what you call it, the melatonin is produced from the brain and that induces sleep. But with the advancement of the age, the production of this melatonin is reduced. So it has been found now in cows during night hours, it's around 4 times more available there in the milk of the cows compared to the milks that we take during the daytime. And the products have been designed to introduce such products in the consumption market where you can have melatonin-rich milk consumed at the night hours and you can have a very good sleep without having any you see the health conditions compromised. These are very good, particularly for the COPD patients. Elderly patients have simultaneously concomitant conditions of COPD. Now, in COPD conditions, there is if you are giving certain tranquilizers to induce sleep, that causes vagal insufficiency. With the results, during the night hours, there is formation of the phlegm. The phlegm gets stuck in the throat, and that will lead to death of the patient. So in order to have that effect of the tranquilizers withdrawn, we can have these, we call it slumbering bedtime milk. These can be introduced into the regular consumption of the consumers, so that particularly I told the geriatric patients where the conditions are very grave, which cannot be compromised. So melatonin-rich milk is one of the components that you can explore. Now antimicrobial milk has itself a very potent antimicrobial system in the form of a certain, the lactoperoxidase system, we have certain proteins and enzymes, you have the immunoglobulins available, you have certain kinds of agglutinins available, wherein it can be imparted over there. Now toxin binding effect also has been seen. There are certain, for instance, if certain food toxicity takes place because of the Shigella, Salmonella, cholera or E. coli, there is prevention, there is toxin binding capability in the milk as such. So a study has been carried out. This is the capability of the cow milk, goat milk and the buffalo milk, wherein it has been seen that the toxin, cholera toxin and E. coli toxin activity has been, the highest has been found in case of buffalo milk, followed by goat milk and cow milk. So toxin, if perchance is available in the food, it can be bound with the help of conversion of the dairy foods. Bifidobacterium, I told you, these are ligosaccharides, amino sugars, these components responsible for imparting growth promotion in case of infants if they consume such kinds of products. Now there are opioid-like effects also that I have already discussed with you, that beta-casomorphin 7 and 9 has opioid you see the effects also, analgesic effects also, anti-inflammatory effects also. Now antioxidant property is very much there if we are incorporating vitamin E, vitamin C, certain kinds of foods. We have natural foods also. In our division itself, we can have, while doing the hands-on practicals there in the laboratory, several products we have developed over there, wherein the antioxidant activity has been established in the laboratory. But in vivo studies are to be taken. But you can have the conditions seen over there. We have used several components, several naturally available foods for incorporation into regular diets of milk-based diets, wherein the antioxidant activity has been established very satisfactorily, and incorporation of such ingredients into our regular diet will definitely help prevent several kinds of diseases. These are some of the components we call it, we have claimed it to be functional. Say for instance, probiotics is already established, it has no doubt. See, probiotics are a very potent and health benefit having ingredients having health benefits. Bifidobacterium species and lactobacillus species. In non-fermented milk, fermented milk, cheese and dairy desserts. These are the characteristics. It improves intestinal health, may have positive influence on the immune system, helps prevent intestinal carcinogenesis, support. These are the established characteristics that can be imparted by consumption of these kinds of foods that I have tabulated over here. The prebiotics are like inulin and oligosaccharides. Then we have bioactive compounds like peptides, phenolic compounds. These can be incorporated several kinds of foods, dairy-based waste foods, and these are the functional claims that we have already established. Bioactive phospholipids of milk fat, fat global membrane. Now, in nutshell, these are the effects of having a regular consumption of the functional foods or functional ingredients incorporated into some other kinds of foods. Reduced risk of cardiovascular diseases. There is reduced risk of cancers. Improved health in general. There is improved memory power. Very important. Very important for instance, in older age there is Alzheimer's or forgetfulness. If the regular consumption takes place from the beginning itself, these conditions can be prevented. Reduced risk of other diseases, as I have given the list of. Reduced osteoporosis, improved mental health, and quicker recovery time. So reflexes, you see, with the advance of the age, you will find there is delayed reflexes over there, delayed responses you will find from the people. So if you are encouraging the people, particularly your elders at home, while taking these functional foods, these quicker reaction times can be incorporated. So this is the conclusive comment that we need to have a workforce who can work collectively in a team spirit for the production of and identification of the bioactive components which are physiologically active, so that they can be termed as functional for incorporation dairy-based foods. For instance, we are dealing with the dairy-based foods or meat-based foods. Other foods also can be incorporated, and such effects can be. The list of the diseases that I have given, the list of the benefits that I have given can be incorporated in our society. And the entrepreneurs have a special role there. They can incorporate, they can have interaction with our faculty over here. They have been working for the last decade or more on functional foods. We have developed certain foods. You can go and have the technology transferred to your field, and you can have the marketing of such products done on the basis of the benefits that I have given. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, please. Difference in
if there is any significance, like health benefits.
Yes, that is said. It is postulated. It's hypothetical, but right now it's not certain. I told you the research is still needed. Hypothesis is there that A1 has A2 has the advantage over A1 milk. It is said that A1 milk has that BCM beta galactosamine 7 component, which has certain ill effect on the health, wherein it can cause diabetes mellitus, cardiovascular disease, ischemic heart disease, and certain other metabolic disorders, which the A2 milk does not have. A2 milk is said to have not that effect, that particular component. Its difference at the, you see the amino acid sequence level. At position 67, we have histidine in case of A1 milk and proline in case of A2 milk. So while the chain reaction, you see, chain rigidity is maintained by proline. Proline is an amino acid, so a rigidity can be withstood by this particular proline. So this histidine is not able to do that. That's what the fractionation takes place at position 7 in the case of histidine, and at position 9 in case of A2 milk at proline level.
So as an entrepreneur, can we use it in our advertisement, because we don't want to create a hoax or a fake advertisement?
A2 is right now selling like anything. In Gujarat, it's selling at double the price. But we cannot establish that in our laboratory. It's still a matter of debate. But on the basis of the current claims of the people, in vivo studies, it has not been anything. It needs a long-term study.
So, like what about the breed selection? If certain breeds are predominant in...
Yeah, that can be done. Our genetics people help with that. They can identify.
Like we can get a certificate from here or something like that.
Certification can be done, yes. It's basically the milk has to be collected. Then it's the casein component. You see,
Yes.
milk has several. I told you there are two main groups: whey protein group and the casein group. Casein group has 4 subgroups: alpha S1, alpha S2, beta, gamma, and kappa casein.
Yes.
Beta casein is second most abundant amount of the casein protein present in the milk, and that has 13 so far. 13 defined variants, and 2 common variants are A1 and A2. So you can get it verified from the genetics department. We have the facility.
Okay.
You can contact the team.
सर हम एक बात करते हैं ना कि जनरली we say that with age this lactose intolerance increases because of the diminishing of this lactase enzyme. Why it happens with age? Why this lactase enzyme gets reduced with age? Why not in children, or why doesn't it stay?
I don't think it reduces with the age. It's basically inherently, so genetically present in certain ethnic groups in Africa and Asia, in Europe also, but to the lesser extent. It's basically a genetic condition.
But I'm not verified it, but I have read somewhere that with age lactase concentration gets decreased.
Maybe in certain conditions, maybe this issue. But basically it's genetic.
It's more a genetic predisposition.
Sir, मुझे आप बोले सर जनरली नॉर्मली इंक्रीज द शर्ट ऑफ we have into many stages जैसे कि pasteurization होने के उसके बाद UHT sterilization whatever सर जो अपना हमारा कंसर्न है बिकॉज कंज्यूमर्स अभी मतलब अभी एक स्टेज आ गया है ग्रीन कंज्यूमरिज्म हम ये नहीं चाहते कि हम फूड आए इसमें न्यूट्रिशियस कैपेसिटी है तो चलो ठीक है ये हम ये भी देखते हैं इससे कोई साइड इफेक्ट तो नहीं होगा यू मस्ट हैव सीन कि अभी हमारा जो ये है ना मेडिसिन अभी बहुत सारे प्रेफर कर रहे हैं टू मूव फ्रॉम दिस एलोपैथिक टू आयुर्वेदिक बिकॉज ऑफ द साइड इफेक्ट्स देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ साइड इफेक्ट्स और यही सर बोल रहे थे कि जो बायोएक्टिव पेप्टाइड्स है ना नॉर्मली अभी दौर आ रहा है बायोएक्टिव पेप्टाइड्स करके जैसे हमें ब्लड प्रेशर के लिए हमने एक पिल खाई उसमें कैप्टोप्रिल वो जो भी मेडिसिन है उसके साइड इफेक्ट्स भी हैं अब मिल्क से या बाकी बाई प्रोडक्ट से हम बायोएक्टिव पेप्टाइड से ले रहे हैं जिससे हमारा ब्लड प्रेशर डिक्रीज होगा लेकिन हमारे हेल्थ पे इफेक्ट नहीं पड़ेगा इसलिए जो ये ग्रीन कंज्यूमरिज्म है ना इसने पूरा मार्केट स्ट्रेटजी ही चेंज कर दी है नॉर्मली अब आप देख रहे होंगे कि जनरली नॉर्मली हमारा जो एग है वो 5 और 6 रुपीज़ का आता है अब ऑर्गेनिक एग्स आ रहे हैं हमारे यहाँ शोहामा में भी है दैट कॉस्ट इज अबाउट 15 और 20 रुपीज़ है सिंगल एग कल सर बोल रहे थे हमारे एक्सटेंशन के डायरेक्टर साहब बोल रहे थे कि अब ये ऑर्गेनिक चीज़ आ गई है तो मतलब इट्स एन अपॉर्चुनिटी फॉर यू डेयरी एंटरप्रेन्योर्स कि आप नए प्रोडक्ट्स ला सकते हो मार्केट में जो आप बात कर रहे थे इट विल गिव ए बूस्ट इन दैट केस तो सर मैं एक्चुअली ये मतलब जो हम बोल रहे हैं इसमें ज़्यादा जैसे नला रिएक्शन प्रोडक्ट्स वगैरह होते हैं तो हाउ टू कूप विद दैट क्योंकि हमने अभी इंक्रीज शेल्फ लाइफ के लिए UHT प्रोडक्ट्स बनाए थे सर या अल्ट्रा पास्चराइज्ड व्हाटएवर स्टरलाइज्ड लेकिन उसमें अब प्रॉब्लम आ रही है ये तो उससे कैसे हाउ टू इंक्रीज द शेल्फ लाइफ मतलब हम कैसे ये कूप अप करें सर शुड वी
टेक्नोलॉजी तो एडवांस इट डज हैपन देयर हमने जो UHT के जो पुराना सिस्टम था उसमें ज़्यादा डैमेज होता था हमारे जो हाइड्रोक्लोरिक कंटेंट बहुत ज़्यादा होता था बट नाउ द टेक्नोलॉजी हैज़ बीन एडवांस्ड वी हैव अ वेरी शॉर्ट टाइम for UHT milk to stand for the processing time. So the graph, if you remember the graph of UHT of the older process, the new process, you stay that milk for a very short period of time, so that there is minimum damage. That the technology has to be advanced further, further less amount of.
But sir, वो वही रहता है ना sir that question कि if we stand it, we keep it as such for 6 months, but the interactions between its things happens, still happens. That will be there.
That is you have to compromise. Since we have glut available, say for instance in monsoon outside Kashmir you will find huge quantities of milk are available. If you do not convert into powders, if you do not convert into UHT milk, that will go down to the drain. So there are economic losses. So you have to make compromises to that. Even pasteurized processed foods, you had normally everybody here we have consumed Wazwan product. If you see, you do not have the tastes and those Wazas these days, they will definitely add those food ingredients, those food colors which are definitely at the evening you will find definitely the dry mouth and all conditions. You will definitely feel that some amount has been added over there which is deleterious. Even yesterday, two days before I had gone to Kashmir examination, and they offered me some chunks of meat. So it was, I could discern monosodium glutamate was used to such a great extent, so it's very deleterious. So without such conditions, you cannot process. These are commercial compulsions, I say, which people make is sell, but at the cost of the health of the consumer. If you are a sincere entrepreneur, if you want to have products given to the consumers, maybe at a higher cost, with certain health benefits, it will definitely help you to grow and prosper. Without going to the shortcuts and benefits obtained at the cost of the cost. After all, God also sees it.
So that's what we're actually trying to build a sustainable framework. So, like probiotics and whey should be considered as a secondary product and milk always as a primary product.
Milk will always stand primary product. Beverages are not a utter requirement. Milk is not a requirement. There were occasions here, the curfews were imposed for months together, but milk was allowed. Beverages were not a requirement, isn't it? So beverages can be kept, health beverages can be kept, etc. We have a huge consumption, we have market over here. Fruit fill is the local product here, isn't it? So they are offering it at a lower price, people are taking the scheme. There are consumers for that also. Right. We have a technology here developed here in our division for the beverages. So huge quantities of whey are going waste. Paneer manufacture does take place, but whey is going waste. The whey you can utilize for the development of beverages. Economic viability has to be seen. It has to be on a huge quantity. Small laboratory levels, economic studies have not been carried out, but the technology is available. It's a viable product, it's a viable entity, it's a marketable entity. But the economics have to be worked out, because for that purpose, you have huge quantity. Simple example is if you are chilling the milk, simply chilling and selling the milk. You will have not less than 10,000 liters of milk for it is being viable economically. If you go for 200 liters, 10 liters, it would be economically viable.
Yes, we are very thankful. We have, in continuation to that, we have a the utilization of whey is also in our lecture schedules. So we have done some work on that, where we have developed, because easiest way to utilize that whey is by the production of whey beverages, which can be taken at our home. We can fortify that whey by number of ingredients like basil seed is there. या जिसको कदीर से ना ट्रागा कर गम जो कदीर से तो अदरस करामा अगर बेसी कदीर करावनी या basil seed बारबेक्यू इतना करावनी या almond, coconut, we have oats. We can use number of plant-based ingredients to increase the functionality of the product. You know, these days the market is that we are having products, we are preparing very good products, but the thing is that it's marketing, branding, promotion. That is one of the newest thing right now. Packaging तो होता ही है, but promotion and marketing is one of the most important thing for the successful success of the business. So आजकल के ज़माने में लोग ऑर्गेनिक के नाम पे चीज़ें बेचते हैं और फंक्शनैलिटी के नाम पे चीज़ें बेचते हैं. So if we can say that our there is a thing that meat in itself is a functional. Milk in itself is a functional. ठीक है? We can say milk is a functional ingredient. जो सर ने बोला कि functionality की क्या क्या चीजें होती हैं. It is in itself a functional. Meat in itself is a functional. ठीक है? But we can brand that. We can increase its functionality by increasing the incorporating different ingredients. So वे की जो बात अभी शायद हुई थी यहाँ पे, तो we have a practical for it. We will show how the big beverages we prepare. ठीक है? And one of the best products we have prepared in our division, जो कि लोगों ने बड़ा relish किया. We have displayed those things in the Kisan Melas and other things, all the dignitaries who had taken that. And then now the thing is that how to promote that. That's most important thing. So that we are in that state. Let us hope for the best in that state. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful lecture, wherein you touched all the aspects of functional foods vis-a-vis milk products and the importance of milk, which were I think most of the participants may have got the glimpse or rather extensive things about the milk, the benefits of milk which we are not knowing. We are not aware of the benefits associated with consumption of milk. Thank you, sir. And we are really dignified and honored to have you here, because sir has been with us from last 10 years. He has retired last year only as Dean of his faculty. He was Professor and Head Division of LPT. He is a pioneer in milk itself. So he has accepted our invitation. We are really honored and thankful, sir.
Pleasure is mine.
Before we move on, I would like to request our Dr. Asif to please present a token of love in the form of memento to sir.
Thank you very much.